Good morning, everybody. My name is Hillary Stupa, and I am a developer with Qdabra software. And I am happy to welcome you to our webinar this morning. We are going to talk about SharePoint gardening with Svetlana Aramova, and she is new to Qdabra. She just joined us June 1st, and we are happy to welcome her here. Svetlana, it looks like your screen isn't being shared right now, so you'll just want to get that started up, and I'm going to hand the mic over to you. Welcome.
Can you see my screen now?
Yep, now I can. It just went away for a second, but it's back, so it looks like you are live.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Hillary. So, Patrick, you were planning to talk, to present Qdabra first, or I can start presenting now?
Yeah, hello, everyone. This is Patrick. I'm lurking in the background. I'm going to ask questions if you don't have any. Welcome to our webinar this morning. It's great to have you all here. Svetlana, it's all you.
Thank you. And I joined Qdabra in June 1st, and I'm happy to be with the team that is embracing technologies and all the new trends that are coming with the Microsoft technologies. And I was impressed of the way they were envisioning how the info platforms are going to be transformed, because it was a technological challenge for many of the SharePoint people. So I like the way they see how info platforms can be used in future.
Yeah, so sorry, let me just jump in again, Svetlana, and welcome you again aboard. Svetlana's been with us since June 1st, and we're really happy because she is a SharePoint expert. She worked for many years at a large nonprofit organization and as a SharePoint admin. And we have this series planned for you, SharePoint Admin Series, and it starts today. This is the first part of the series, and it's on how to keep your SharePoint garden looking beautiful and well organized so that people want to go there. And anyway, that's
yep.
Go for it. Sorry.
Yeah, actually it's SharePoint, and we didn't specify that it's SharePoint online gardening. So I have been dealing with SharePoint online for probably 6 years now, and I went through all the changes from classic to modern, and I was seeing the challenges there, and I'm always happy to share my knowledge. And in this series I'm going to try to present what you need to pay attention in a SharePoint online administrator and Office 365 administrator, and in a funnier way, because our job shouldn't be always very serious. We could have fun while we are still doing our jobs the best. Here. So one of the most things that I was doing is to make sure that the content is clean and organized, because gardens, we were talking with Patrick lately, that if you go to a garden that is not well organized, people don't want to go there. So when you maintain your SharePoint online environment, you want to make sure that when people go to it, they feel good visiting and getting their work done. They can find their content. They can better understand where to collaborate with their team, because in the past, many people were wondering if they have SharePoint environment, where they should go, when to use what, and if it's not well organized, people are always confused and they find other tools for collaboration, even though the organizations provide out-of-the-box SharePoint functionalities, and people just don't feel attracted to go there. The disadvantages of having to try to clean your content is that you need to plan how to organize it. It's not that you just open your sites and people are welcome there, but then if you don't have plan, it will again bring confusion where to put stuff, and very soon it will be cluttered with lots of information that you don't know how to maintain. And usually when people start putting content, it's hard to decide what to clean out of it later. So it's better to start clean and keep your content clean while you're maintaining it. And there are so many options when you're planning your site collection structure. So with this series, I'm going to start presenting first what are the options, and I will not spend a lot of time on each one of the options, but in the future series, I'm going to provide you more details of each one of those bullets that I'm going to present on those slides. So, for example, we have classic sites versus modern site, and we all know that in SharePoint Online classic site, they inherited from the SharePoint on-premises, and they were beautifully built, and we spent lots of efforts of customizing them and making them look pretty for our end users. But we needed to apply a lot of efforts in order to make them usable for different devices like mobile devices. And with the modern sites, it just comes out of the box reactive. It's just reactive, and if you go to your mobile phone, you can see the same look and feel like you have on your computer. The other difference between classic and modern was that in classic sites, they were mostly owned by business, and IT was working there, preparing the structure for them, while in the modern sites, they're more user-friendly and user-driven. So your users could be the owners and the administrator of their site. You just need to supervise them and give them the best directions how they can work there. The other advantages of the modern SharePoint Online is that it's cloud managed, and you don't have to spend time of maintaining sub portions of it. The biggest difference in the classic and modern is the manual versus intelligence, how content is being found through the search engine, and in modern science it's mostly through the Microsoft Graph, and it's more people driven than manually. You build your searches and you just have to make your queries and make sure that you build the right metadata in order to present to the users.
That means it's faster too, right? I mean, the modern sites seem to be able to handle more items in them without having the same, 5,000 item limit that we had with classic.
That's right. Yes, I completely forgot about that, but probably 6 months ago, Microsoft announced that they don't have anymore this limitation of 5,000. They increased it to 20,000, and they are going to increase it further. The biggest one of the other differences is that the hierarchy. When you have a classic site, there are lots of subsites that you can build underneath, and usually people start building thousands of sites. Then they become unmanageable in one point if they start growing there, and the site collection features are hard to be cascade. So you need to start changing the site collection features on the top to service a subsite that is probably further down. So the site collection features are very hard to be maintained across all the sites. While in the flat, you know your demand of what do you need for your site, so you plan the site collection features just for that site, because even if they're called team sites and communication sites, they're all just one site collection. So for each team site, you have a site collection. And the way Microsoft recommends to do now the hierarchy is through the Hub Site Association. that I have some slides to share later about hubs. The other consideration about SharePoint Modern is we have public versus private sites, and they're mainly when they go with Office 365 group. When you create a group, it creates a team site that can be public and private, and the public is open for everyone, and you need to plan that probably some of the content is shared across everyone from the organization, and even they haven't accessed it, they can always see it, while the private membership requires approval, and everybody is there just invited by the site owner, or they requested access to that site. So it's almost like everything is stored in a secure place that you can decide if you can download files and you can still share, but it has its own rules. The private sites also can be changed to that are Office 365 groups, can be also made as Teams later. Microsoft Teams, which is another platform for collaboration and chat. So the advantage of having a private group that becomes a team later is how you plan your collaboration in future. The other concept is team sites and communication sites, and I was seeing those differences like in your team sites, you work with your colleagues, you share ideas, you help them to develop some products, and the purpose is completely different than the communication side, where you have to just present to the rest of the organization your initiative. The communication sites are usually open to the whole organization, while the team sites are probably more private places to work. Another difference in the Teams and communication site is how the quick launch is currently working. The quick launch and the communication sites is on the top of the menu, while the quick launch on the team sites is on the left side. And sometimes people want to have it in both sides, and when you associate the team sites with the hub, then you have your left side with the quick with the top side navigation. So there are different mechanisms of achieving these different quick launches. Also, the features with team sites and communication sites is very different, because team sites that come with group, they come also with planner, with Power BI and its own Outlook box, while communication site is just a flat site without other collaboration platforms. And as I mentioned earlier, you can associate a team site or communication site to a hub. And hub came probably 1 year ago, and it's very useful to organize your content across some shared spaces. So, for example, if you had functional finance teams that had multiple team sites, you can associate them to one hub, and they can have the same navigation from the top, but on the left side their team site navigation. And the best thing in hub is that the security is respected from the hub. So if somebody didn't have access to a particular team associated with the hub, they won't be able to see or search the content. The hub that associates all the other sites, it's searching across sites with security trim permission. So if you search, you won't find content that you don't have access. The problem with hubs is that
Question for you, so the hub sites are is this mainly a 365 Office Online kind of deal, or is it also a fair point to the SharePoint on-prem crowd out there?
It's still SharePoint Online. I haven't heard, maybe in the 2019 there might be something, but I haven't heard anything about being on-prem. The disadvantages of of having a hub is that you need to plan how you organize your things. So it requires some efforts of you planning, but as I said at the beginning, you actually need to start planning for your SharePoint for anything you develop. So it's good to have planning for your hubs as well. And there are many tools for maintaining your SharePoint environment, and as the title of this said, maintaining your garden. And there are different frequencies that you can do every day, your everyday administration tasks, but there are some annual, quarter, and weekly, or some on an event. You need to do some actions, and there are various tools. PowerShell is something that everybody that is SharePoint administrator need to start learning in one point, because some configurations are not available out of the box from your admin portal. You need to go and apply PowerShell in order to achieve some of those tasks. The other big thing that you need to plan and understand is the compliance. There is a lot of retention and sensitivity labels and compliance configurations that are happening in Azure Active Directory that are still in progress of development from Microsoft. They kind of work, but it's better to wait probably 1 or 2 months from now, when I see from their roadmap that it will be very well developed. And there are some dashboards that you can go and check what is how many sites are created, who is using them, and how they're using. So there are lots of dashboards that provide visual information about your environment, and usually this is the best way first to go and check your dashboard to see what is happening there. So I will do a little demo with a flow that it helps me to track my daily tasks. And I will just share my screen. I will stop sharing the PowerPoint so you can see how the task, the flow is helping me to use Planner. So here is Microsoft Planner. And as you can see, if I go to my SharePoint site of the SharePoint administrator, if I refresh it, it shows that all of my tasks for today have been complete, and it is just one Power BI web part that I put on my team site. And here I have a workflow. Give me a second. I will show you the flow that is sorry, I just so let me run the flow, and I will show you, once it runs, I will show you the steps that have been happening there, because somehow I cannot. So see, there are connections between Planner and my Office 365. plan. And when I run this, so I will first go to my planner to show you that all of the tasks have been completed. Here and then my daily SharePoint activities that have some checks. Check the overall SharePoint service, check the auditing information, identify the report governance violations, and all of the other tasks are complete. But if I run the flow, you see, now let me refresh it. Now it shows on my planner that I have some tasks to do today, and it's the way it's scheduled that it was just a test run, but usually it's scheduled to run every morning at 8 a.m. So when I come in the morning, if I refresh now, it will show me that I have some tasks to do here that are not complete, and it's waiting that are in progress and I should go and complete. And initially, when I was planning to do the flow, I was thinking that maybe I should send an email to me. But then in our discussion with Patrick, we were thinking, is it better to receive an email every day that it's almost like nagging you and you start ignoring in one point that email because it's a daily routine, or it's better to have some visuals that are shared with the whole team and provides information who does what. So Patrick, maybe you can talk a little bit more about that.
I was just going to ask you if this is great. Is this something that you created in terms of the flow, or is this an out-of-box flow that
Yeah,
SharePoint
no,
provides?
I created the flow, and here I just cannot, for some reason I cannot go to show. Oh, here it is, the flow. Here, it's a reoccurrence flow that runs at 8 a.m. on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it gets the current time. Then I assigned another variable there that has a due date with a string that adds hours to the current time, and then it updates the planner task. The biggest difficulty I had was that it doesn't let me go to navigate to the task. I needed actually to understand the task ID, which is a very difficult GUI to find. So this was my biggest challenge.
How did you find it? Did you go to the show people how you found it? That's actually a good piece of tech.
Give me a second. Yeah, it's on the
While
task.
you're doing that, I also wanted to ask after that where those checks are, because you went through. There's I think there's 7 or 8 checks that you've got there for the activities, and I wanted to see where those were defined too.
Yeah, I will show you. So if you go copy link to task, so if you go to the task, open the task and copy link to task. Let me open Notepad. Sorry, the presentation screen is on my way. I'm trying to. Here, this was the funny thing that you can find here, but it wasn't very intuitive. So yeah, this task ID, if they had other planners that actually you can navigate to the planner somehow, but not in this case. So I needed to find the best way of finding the ID. So let me go to show you. If you create a new task, the checklist that you start adding is here, and you can decide whether test 1, and when you can label it. So for me, I have labels for daily, annual, and all of those. So if I click on daily, when you save the task, you can decide whether you want to be shown on the card or not. So this is the way you do the tasks for planner, the subtasks for planner. And when you assign to somebody, they receive an email. So actually, this works in both ways. If you want to have your planner plus receiving an email, it can be further automated for sending an email. I just thought that I rather prefer just to have it on the screen reported to me as task in progress.
That's great that you're demoing Planner. It's something that I think a lot of people haven't seen. Now, the idea behind this this demo flow is it's something that people can run every day to check their site out and identify areas that might need grounds maintenance, right? To use the gardening metaphor.
Yes. Just for if I go to my planner and if I plan my things properly, I can start checking and unchecking things, what I need to do on these tasks. And yeah, you need to know where to go, and maybe there additional documentation around those tasks will be helpful. It is just for maintaining your tasks. It's not more than that. I also have a little SharePoint Online admin tasks here as a cheat sheet that are my daily activities and weekly activities and all of and according to Microsoft, this is just the IT responsibilities, just the data governance, the client endpoints, and the account access and management. But I think it's much more than that. You need to maintain your content clean. I don't see this portion of IT responsibility here, so maybe it's part of the business to understand and be trained how to do their content cleanup and apply governance around the rest, but I still think that IT have more functionalities than just those responsibilities listed from Microsoft.
We'll make this document available to everyone who's watching today, and they can see it in detail.
Yes, for sure. I will send it to everyone. So I will go back to the slide. So here is the slide, and this is the flow. And I will export also the flow, and I will make it available as well to the audience, so they can see how current time and those due dates are being configured. Let me start.
Can you go back to presenter mode?
I'm not? Okay, sorry. Sorry, I don't know when I lost the presentation.
PowerPoint. Yeah, for PowerPoint, I mean, sorry, not for the webinar. It was showing the individual slides. It'd be easier to see it if it's bigger, that's all. Sorry to bother you.
Yeah, here, the
Svetlana, I'm sorry, but actually, you quit screen sharing. So go ahead and screen share. And there we go. Perfect. Perfect. It's perfect now. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't know when it changed. So it's in the middle of my screen. That's why I was trying to move it away, and maybe I stopped sharing it this time. So a big topic for the SharePoint Online guys was the self-service of site creation, and there were two sides of it. There were people that were all over, oh, you need to enable self-service sites creation because it doesn't create overhead and it helps your user. The other part of people were telling you should restrict self-service site creation because it creates content sprawl and we are in danger because everybody starts creating sites and we don't know how to maintain it and we don't have any information who created what. And so Microsoft kept telling that people need to keep doing self-service. So it was very confusing what is the best practice for self-service of sites. And if you create it already, if you have this functionality enabled in your environment, I would recommend to keep it this way until you develop your navigation model, you create your best practices, you understand how to classify those sites, and in this point, you lock it you decide who are the people you need to educate in order to create sites, and just a few people to be able to create sites, and then just make it available for them to, and they will know their audiences and they will start creating. So in order to have self-service, you still need to have classification, retention, and deletion enabled, and then you can open self-service for specific group of people. But don't just open it to everyone of the organization and just think that things are very smooth.
Can you clarify for me what self-service is, Svetlana? I'm not super SharePointy, so it's not a familiar term to me.
Self-service is when you go to SharePoint, you click on create a site, and you're an end user. You're not an IT expert. You're just the end user who is doing some financial advising. And if you go to SharePoint and you can create, you can go to create, and it creates a site for you, and you can invite people to work in your collaboration space there.
Got it. So just having it wide open where we let anybody who uses it create sites, I can see why that might create a navigation nightmare.
Yes, and if you created something and the next year you're gone, but you invited people, this site loses ownership. Then you don't know who, people that were using this site and started to put some content there, don't know who to ask to, how they can invite other people, because they're just members, but the owner is no longer there. So it's normally people need to create a second administrator in order to maintain this, and the SharePoint administrators need to monitor abandoned sites. And I think Microsoft is planning to have something like trigger if there is a site without an ownership, to be able to assign it to the SharePoint admins. But I think it's still not available on the roadmap. And I was reading some good resources, and under the slides you will see some references to some documentation that is provided from other SharePoint gurus. So please feel free to go to those links. They will be shared along with the PowerPoint. And again, with the self-service creation of sites, the delete and archive is a little bit challenging. That's why you need to plan how do you delete and archive your content. So for deletion, you need to recognize what is a content that is no longer used and nobody needs it. While for the archive, you might have some retention policies and something that you need to keep for future use. So there are many tools used for that. You can do it with PowerShell reporting, and then with PowerShell you can tell this is the site that I need to lock for read only, so people can still access the content but just read it. Or you can apply retention policies, which is the best way of doing it, but you need to have lots of planning to understanding your classification and how things are being retained. Otherwise, it will become abandoned content, and when people start searching, they will find junk and they will ask what I'm looking for and where is my best version of the document and how come I cannot find my information. There will be, so I think that we are a little bit late with this. Are we? How much time we have left? Because migration is a huge topic that I can talk hours for it. So we will have a separate session about this. But before you do migration, you need to discover, report, and communicate the rules, what you're planning to leave behind and what you're going to migrate. And people are actually very attached to their content, and sometimes it's not easy for them to ask, please don't use this content, just move your clean version and your clean documents. And you need to organize them in new containers and put the content there in an organized way. Don't just migrate things.
Don't you need a certain minimum size of the hive in order to keep it alive?
Yes. Yes, it's a good metaphor.
We have a lot of customers who are doing migrations now, and I think sometimes people spend a lot of time, figuring out what to move, and sometimes it might be better just to move all of it and then delete it later. There's lots of different approaches. Yeah.
When they move it in, you would never delete it later. It will stay forever, and it will.
But if you hold on, if you have those special scripts that you're running to check how old it is, I guess you can't move the date, can you? It shows up as new on the migration.
No, you can use it doesn't. You can move the date, but if you move it, you need to apply also the special rules. So you need to understand. You still need to organize it in a way to know your retention schedules and how things needs to be deleted later. Yeah, it's another.
But you're gonna do that anyway, right? So if you're gonna set the retention schedules to auto delete stuff, then the old stuff will go away, right?
Yeah, but you need to apply the retention schedules before you migrate. So you need to still plan your things.
Got it.
And data loss prevention and compliance, it's something that you need to spend almost every day to monitor any alerts that you're receiving from your admin portal tools, and have a good plan if you receive an alert, how to plan and how to react on it, because there are different alerts which require different people involved. So having a plan of what is your communication with different departments, legal departments, is a good way of starting planning your data loss prevention before you start applying. So it's good to have some policies in place. And this is another topic that we are going to have a deeper understanding in a future webinar. Ensure ownership. This was also related to the self-service creation, that you need to make sure that there are more people owning the content, because if just one person goes, then it will be hard to maintain. And those people need to have training of more, not just like end user, but more power user training of the SharePoint capability. So they will be your pilots for running SharePoint on their end. So I just wanted to show you the site that I built here. That flow is on a test site, because usually I don't build. So you can use the demo environment for proof of concept that something is working. You don't do anything for compliance. Usually you have to do compliance on your test environment before you apply into your production, because sometimes if you lock a record, if you play it with a record and you just declare it as a record something, it stays forever. You cannot unlabel stuff. So you need to plan your compliance first in demo environment before you apply it to production. So as a proof of concept. The other use case for demo for the demo environment is to follow the changes from the roadmap. Microsoft is changing almost every week things, and it's good to have a test environment where you can play and see how things are working, instead of having test site and test for planner, test for something, and then it would never go away. So just for testing in use cases, if you have a SharePoint framework developer, you need to have a better DevOps integration, so you know if you do development, how it goes to production. So those are the listed use cases about dev environment. Microsoft provides trial versions for a month. So you can use it for 1 month. You can extend it with 1 more month for trial. But also there are 3 months dev environments that you can also use for working on your SharePoint framework. And there are lots of tools for Power BI for reporting and dashboards for understanding your environment that we will have another session for explaining further how this works. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
So Patrick and I have been,
go ahead,
sorry.
Sorry.
Patrick and I had been trying to field a few questions. It took me like 6 answers to get it right on hub sites and how they're created, but I finally managed to get the right information to Shri. And then there was a question on classic sites in mobile. Do you have any firsthand experience with your classic sites in mobile, Svetlana? I know Modern is more responsive and was built more around mobile, but I didn't know about classic at all.
The classic are those that were built on premises. So the classic still goes on mobile if they're using the modern look and feel. But even if you associate a classic site to a hub, it doesn't take this because it's based on master pages. You need to have your master page designed to be responsive. So if you have some master pages applied, it won't be good for mobile if you haven't planned on your master page there.
Okay, and then what about, I know in SharePoint Online, I can still, over on the left-hand side, there's usually a link I can click to return to classic view. And if I've done that, so I'm in classic view on my SharePoint Online site.
For this library.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's
just
for the library.
Yeah, usually you do it for a library, and the SharePoint administrator can, on your SharePoint settings, you can tell, I want this to be the whole environment to enable only modern or only classic. It's based on how do you want to introduce the change. Do you want to introduce it gradually to people with teaching them, or just turning the button on and then they will be learning as they work?
And so Harvey just asked how to change the classic site to a modern site, and it sounds like, is it possible at the site level to change the whole thing over?
No, it's not, because there are some restrictions. The classic site that has lots of subsites, you cannot transfer to modern. You can associate a classic site with an Office 365 group, but then the subsites will be kind of weird underneath, and the features will be disattached somehow. So it's better to plan just to move some of the subsites as flat with a migration tool, and then apply Office 365 group to them. So you can make a classic site attached to a group and it becomes a modern. I can show here, let me see whether, I don't have a classic site, but here on the, usually here you will see if it was a classic site. Here I can have connect to an Office 365 group. This means that this classic site can become a modern.
And then there's also a question from Pete asking, what is the best approach for setting up a single sign-on in your experience? Have you used Azure to create SSO for SharePoint?
Yes. So yeah, we did the SSO and it works great for people, so they don't have to worry for. So SharePoint, if you have Office 365 account, it's all there, so you don't have to worry about single sign-on because it's within your Office environment. Once you log in with it, you're there. But you can apply to Office 365 and Azure other application with single sign-on. So SharePoint Online is actually single sign-on with Azure already. But you need to plan a little bit about multi-factor authentication, and it is another portion for the compliance, because usually your security scores will go up if you have all of your administrators for multi-factor authentication. So I need to log in with my user credentials plus my cell phone in order to get to the admin portal.
So, as Patrick, I noticed that during your demo, you were showing these different activities that you could just type those in yourself as reminders, but are there also flow actions? Maybe this is also a question to Hillary. Are there also flow actions that you can use that are out of the box, kind of made for administrators?
Yeah, there are. There's a series of flow administrative actions. I personally haven't used them, but I can certainly find the link on them.
Oh yes, I haven't heard about them. It will be very interesting to understand that as well.
What kind of, I mean, it would be kind of interesting, and you haven't looked at them, so it might be interesting to do a follow-up, and maybe at the beginning of our next webinar, we'll look back on this one and just make a few comments. But I know we've gone over a great summary of all these wonderful techniques for keeping the common area attractive to the public or the private people who want to go there. I think the inspiration for today's talk was going out to the park and noticing that people aren't cleaning up after their pets and themselves, and realizing that we do need to keep our common areas clean to keep them attractive, to to make them common areas, right? I mean, the whole definition of a common area is it's someplace where people will go to share experiences, and SharePoint is the same way. So I want to thank you, Svetlana, for putting together this wonderful slide deck and doing your first presentation. I know it's always tough to do the first one, but I think we got through it. Great job, and look forward to the second part of the series. Now, the second part of the series is going to be on the we're doing a SharePoint admin number 2. Is that on the 22nd or is that in September? I forget.
It was on 22nd about logic apps and flow, which will another comparison between different environments.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess we're not considering that SharePoint admin though, isn't there? What's the next SharePoint admin one? Is that going to be on the 9th of September? When's that going to be? I think it's
on the 9th of September. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Great. And what's that called? What's the title for that?
There were multiple options, and one was for the migration, so it depends on the interest of people, and I had on the survey after that to see what are their most interested in the tasks they're doing the most. I will probably plan with that webinar to be promoted.
Fill out the survey. Your feedback on the survey will determine what we present next in terms of the SharePoint admin series. We do have about a dozen topics, and we're going to be, I think, distilling that down into 8 or 9 of these webinars over the next couple months. If you have not heard, we do have a replacement for InfoPath. We're the only company out there that has an as-is, in-place replacement. You can take your forms, convert them over, so you don't have to worry about InfoPath anymore. And if you've got a lot of forms, that can be a blocking issue for you migrating. We can resolve that block and help you migrate up to the cloud. And so FormSzero is an order or 2 orders of magnitude less expensive than anything else in the market. We're a consulting company. We make money by serving you, and we provide tools to help projects go faster. We do have to charge a small fee for the licensing if you're in the cloud, because we have to pay Microsoft to run it in Azure, but it's like I said, it's really, really inexpensive. And I know that many of you who are on the call have already been using it, so thank you for that. And I want to thank Svetlana and Hillary again for this webinar, the first of the series. And if you have any feedback whatsoever, please don't hesitate to let us know. We are trying to prepare a new series on SharePoint Admin 101, the key essentials for your SharePoint admin lifestyle. Gardening is number 1. You may not have thought that you're going to go out and weed and prune, but that was today's topic, and we'll have many more to come. Hillary, any final words?
No, thanks for joining, everybody. I will be back with you guys on the 29th of August. I'm going to do a little webinar on using the Graph API in Flow. So if you're at all interested in accessing the Graph API, it's kind of a cool one-stop, Svetlana mentioned it, it's kind of a cool one-stop shop for a bunch of different web services. So we'll set up a little connection in Logic Apps, and we'll use that in Flow. and get some information from Outlook. So at any rate, I hope you can join me for that.
Great.
Okay,
And
thank you.
thanks again, Svetlana. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you for the attendance, everyone.
Have a great day, all. Bye.
Bye.